Hey ya, this is Sydney with Let's Get Through It Astrology. I'm here to take you through the astrological weather day by day for a bit of play-by-play. My intention is to give you a little bit of a vibe check so that you can show up on planet Earth as your very best self. I'm recording this from beautiful and sunny Oakland, California, so note that all of the times mentioned in this podcast are in Pacific Standard Time, so you'll want to adjust for wherever you are in the world. Okay, let's get through it. Hey, here to talk about February 4th through the 10th, 2026. I realized that I made a blunder on what I was saying last week. I think I said March. So my apologies if that was confusing for you. I just had a full-on brain fart. We made it through January. Congratulations, everybody. I hope that you're hanging in there and doing all right, considering that the world is literally going through mass hysteria and a bit of mass psychosis. If I'm completely honest, it's been really interesting as a person who has gone deep into rabbit holes for well over, I don't know, the last 20 years, being very interested in various occult, esoteric, and conspiracy rabbit holes, to see a lot of the things that, you see online and you go, that couldn't be real. I'll just tuck that in the back of my bonnet. And then now here we are. So know that if you are a person that is like me, that you're not alone. And there are a lot of us that are paying very, very close attention to what's going on in the world. So I wanted to do a couple of notes. I have the chart up for February 4th, but before we get into that, let's orient ourselves just a little bit. Uranus is still stationed for today, Wednesday, but then it's going to start slowly moving. But with the station, as we know, because the last about 5 days it's been stationed, it's been slow for a very long time. We have been watching this unearthing and destabilization of what we have held to be secure and true for ourselves. And I think that is very much in alignment with what a Uranus station can do. So we're, receiving these deep destabilizing shocks and almost like lightning bolts of awareness. And also about things that are particularly deviant and difficult. We are in a season of change, as you may know, and some background information too is that Pluto and Uranus, and I'll show you on the chart, Pluto and Uranus have been in this contra antitia, and they're about to get out of this. It's like a secret ninja sort of aspect, and their degrees add up to about 30, and it acts like an opposition, let's say. So this is going to hold until about mid-February. What I wrote about it was sudden, deep systemic shifts that are shocking, societal surprises, the fixity of both of these planets in Aquarius and Taurus suggests that these changes are to what we hold as not changeable, what we thought was not changeable, right? To our ability to resource and connect, a destabilization going far deeper than we know. Here we are. And these changes are to set the stage for the Pluto-Uranus trine, which will be perfecting in July of 2026. We have a lot of these bigger, slower outer planets making big moves this year. And so we already knew that these changes, are going to affect us all on a much broader systemic level instead of just on an personal level. Neptune just ingressed Aries. That went down on January 26th. And then what else do we got here? What to watch out for? Just for the week, right? We have the moon going Virgo through Sagittarius. So this is the signs of Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, and Sag. This is the last week before we're in Mercury's shadow. So we have an upcoming Mercury retrograde that will be happening in Pisces. I think it's going to be particularly messy, especially because Mercury in Pisces, Mercury being in Pisces is a sign of its fall and its detriment. It's kind of the worst, quote unquote, worst place for Mercury to be. I think things are going to get kind of muddy and unknowable, very liquid. And that can always, when things aren't so direct, we can get lost in the muck. We are definitely also in eclipse season. We know that with that full moon that just happened in Leo, there was definitely an awareness point, and we saw this happening, especially with the files, things having to do with children. And I think that that was very telling considering that the moon was in Leo. I am recording this on Tuesday, February 3rd at 10:56 a.m. So I started around 10:50 a.m. February 4th, well, actually, our next eclipse for eclipse season is going to be on the 17th at 28 Aquarius. So we're going to want to pay attention and figure out what planets, especially if they're powerful, important, poignant planets in our own chart that are in the fixed degrees, especially the fixed, at around 28 degrees. Let's go give and take 3 degrees on either side. So we got 25 through the end degrees of the fixed. February 4th, Saturn is anaretic at 29 degrees Pisces and pretty much conjunct Neptune. So when we have a planet at the very last degrees of a sign, this is when, the planet is exhausted at this point. It's been traversing this territory. Saturn's been traversing Pisces for the last 2.5 years. Congratulations to all you Saturn and Pisces babies. You are almost out of your Saturn return. But there's always some parting gifts, right? And I believe that Saturn in Pisces has had a lot of things having to do with immigration, spirituality, religion, belief. There's things about religion and spirituality systems that we're getting a parting gift from Saturn on. And certainly we are finding out through the revelations of the files, right, of deeper esoteric systems being in play that are also upholding the structures of our government. So I think as we are waiting for Saturn to go into Aries for good, for the next 2.5 years, there's parting shots, right? So let's pay attention to what's going on with spirituality, religion, immigration, certainly. February 5th, we have Mercury square Uranus, and Mercury, when it squares Uranus, is going to be at the eclipse degree, that 28th degree of Aquarius. So this, whatever this square is, whatever this shocking information that is coming out this week has to do with the eclipses. And eclipses are fated events, right? Eclipses, to me, have this effect of picking up a person, a country, right? And taking them off one path and placing them on another. It's like a course correction, great endings and great beginnings. Because it's a new moon, right? The eclipse is happening at the 28 degrees of Aquarius with the moon and the sun there. Great new beginnings, probably having to do with the information that comes out. Mercury significations can be youth, can be children, information, data, documents, agreements, conversations. On February 6th, we're going to have Mercury going into Pisces. This is fall and detriment. Remember, this is where Mercury doesn't really like to be. Though I will say for all you Mercury and Pisces babies, if you are not engaging in poetry, if you are not a poet or, using your words for some sort of artistic and spiritual expression, I don't necessarily think that you're using your Mercury capabilities to the height of its power. One of the things that I like to think about when a planet is in detriment is that it just has to do things in a different way. it's not that it's bad or horrible or evil or anything like that. It's just it's not doing Mercury things in the way that Mercury would typically do it. And it just has to find a different way of doing what it's doing, which is why we get the poets, right? The people that can put a stream of consciousness down on paper or into their art. On February 8th, we're going to get Venus square Uranus, and Venus is going to now be on the eclipse degree. So, and also something interesting, modern astrology would give this square a mutual reception. So they're kind of working with each other here. But we have to remember that the squares have the nature of Mars. So there's like a conflict here. And because of Uranus's destabilizing and shocking effects, there's something coming up here about Venusian things. I think this has to do with finances. I think this has to do with cryptocurrency. This has to do with women, femininity, and potentially I think this might have to do with something around queerness. The Aquarian eccentricity difference has often been a significator for queerness. I'm not saying that if you have Aquarian placements that you're queer, but there is a differentness than what the status quo is here. But we can see some shocking, destabilizing things coming out around women, money, cryptocurrency, because that Uranus in Taurus is definitely that cryptocurrency thing. With Uranus being in the square to both Mercury and Venus, I think that there's something here about technology here as well. And this is all tied into the eclipse because these degrees are pinging the eclipse that will be happening on the 17th. On February 9th, we're going to get our third quarter moon phase, which is a crisis of consciousness, as if we're not all just struggling from a crisis of consciousness right now. But it's definitely, I feel like a call to action to do what we need to do to accomplish something here. And then on February 10th, Venus is going to go into Pisces, which is the sign of her exaltation. She really loves being in Pisces. You know, this is all encompassing love and acceptance. There is a spiritual aspect to how we love and care and nurture ourselves and each other when Venus is in Pisces. There can also be a sort of Delulu thing happening with Venus in Pisces, really being willing to put on the rose-colored glasses to see your lover in their best light, even though it's probably not the case. This can also be, you know, attracted to Venus being attracted to, right? The poets, the super lovers, and things like that. So those are the big players for this week. Also, we just need to remind ourselves again, I'm going to state it again, we are in eclipse season. So if life seems to be picking you up and throwing you somewhere else, go with it. I know for me, with that full moon, I had to say goodbye to one of my sweet pets. And that was horrible, absolutely horrible. But also what I know of when, especially when animals go during eclipse season, actually my other baby girl, Coco, left it a different eclipse, is that it really is a signal of a direction, a change in life's direction. It's as if your sweet animals go, okay, it's time for it. You're set on your path now. I can go. It's time. So, if you just heard that, that's one of my sweet babies, Lou, who likes to be here when I record. So sorry about that sound. I don't think I can edit it out without having to do all of this again. So I'm not going to. Secondarily, I did a little bit of digging into world horoscopes. I'm holding it up on the screen by Nicholas Campion, a master astrologer, and kind of marked some of the charts of countries and places that I think will be on the larger playing field of change, especially during the Neptune and Saturn conjunction. Neptune and Saturn will be conjuncting. They're meeting each other on February 20th, 2026. So this is also a big deal. We're going to have eyes on the maps of America. We will have that Saturn Neptune conjunction right on our IC, our home, what we consider our baseline, our home, our sense of security, homeland. There's structures are dissolving and new structures are in this like hazy, glossy way, kind of taking their place. We don't know what those are yet. I don't think we're going to really know what Saturn in Aries is going to hold for us until it has broken away from the conjunction of Neptune and started its journey, because it's faster than Neptune. But right now, things feel very confusing and hazy, especially when it comes to what we consider secure and stable, and definitely having to do with government and its various structures and authority, especially as well. We're going to have the eyes on the maps of Cuba. Its midheaven is at 29 degrees Taurus. Uranus is about to hit that again, so we should see some news about Cuba. Guatemala has its 10th house sun at 0 Aries. And the sun rules the second house of money. And so that Saturn-Neptune conjunction is going to be up there. And recently they declared a state of emergency due to gang violence. And Aries has the archetype of war and violence, right? Okay. Hungary, its 4th house cusp, its IC is at 28 Taurus. So we're going to get some sort of hit there. I believe there's some stuff having to do with Russia. Russia is just lit up like a Christmas tree right now. Iceland, its descendant is at 2 degrees Aries, so it's going to also be impacted by that Saturn-Neptune conjunction. Kuwait, its descendant is at 0 Aries. That's right on the money as well, from the 7th house of enemies, open conflict. Panama, its descendant ruler is Mars, and Mars is at 0 Cap. So we know that we are going to get a square from that Saturn-Neptune conjunction. I'm very interested to see, you remember the Panama Papers? I'm interested to see what potentially comes up there. Also, they have their midheaven ruler at Saturn at 3 degrees Aquarius, so Pluto is conjuncting that. So everything having to do with leadership is probably undergoing some change, and certainly we know that Panama's been in the news. I think it will be more out in the open very soon. Let's just do that. I know that was a lot, but just keep your eyes on the news, right? We have a lot of countries are getting pinged by these big transits, either by the Uranus station or by the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. And so we know that all of these places are being destabilized, being changed, they're undergoing rapid transformation, and we just don't know where we're going yet. Okay. Let's go into the astrology of the day so that we as individuals can traverse it, hopefully feeling like we have some sort of eyes on the stars so that we can take a collective breath together. Yeah? Okay. So February 4th is Wednesday. Wednesday is Mercury's day. We have a lot of sticky aspects for this day. It seems like it's a busy day. We have a lot going on in the sky, especially the moon's making mostly stressful aspects. We're going to have early in the morning a sextile to Jupiter. This is pleasant, but it's in the middle of the night. I don't know how much that's really going to help us. 4:55 a.m. we're going to get the moon sesqui square Pluto. This is, frustrations that have like some sort of explosive or powerful effect. We need to be careful about how I feel it's like we just wake up kind of riled up and we don't really know what to do with it. We're going to have Moon quincunx Venus and Chiron pretty much in close rapid succession. It's just like boom, boom. So we can consider that more or less a yod. Really then putting a pressure on the moon. And the moon will be in Virgo. So there's something about analysis. There's an adjustment of analysis, of duty, of service that needs to happen here. We could be seeing some issues that make us feel very sensitive. Maybe we have to give up some sort of ego wounds. And also with Venus, with the quincunx to Venus, we're not necessarily doing so well in our interpersonal, like romantic relationships or how we're getting along with people, things about like social graces. It's giving anxious. Nothing quite feels right. We do have an opportunity at 2:23 p.m. to engage in activities, I believe, that will bring us to a sense of either healing or understanding what needs to be healed, and that's Venus sextile Chiron. So there's an opportunity here for healing. If you have a moment to maybe journal about the ways that, and with the air and fire, I think this is instinctual. This could be a bit of maybe like ritual. Moon sesame square Mars at 4 p.m. We're getting into cranky, explosive, angry sort of outbursts. And we're going to want to make sure that we do not overdo it. Don't overdo it with our bodies, how we're expending our energy, and certainly not how we are expending our anger or frustration. More frustration comes with the quincunx of the moon to Mercury. We need to make an emotional adjustment around the information that is being offered to us or the things that are being told to us. And we could have this particular, like, I want to say 3:30 into 8:30 p.m. seems like there is a lot of opportunity for misunderstandings and misuse of energy and also our words. 8:49, we're going to get a trine from the moon to Uranus, which I like. This gives us a new insight, some new information. Maybe we change the way that we're feeling and we're able to say, okay, actually, here's this habit. I'm going to change it. I'm going to shift, right? So I like the trine to Uranus. But at 11:49 p.m., last aspect of the day, we get the moon opposite Saturn. We come up against a limit. This is a reality check, an outside reality check. Someone's like, actually, no, it's not like that at all, or this isn't how it's done, or we just are feeling like we have a lot placed on our shoulders. It's definitely a womp sort of aspect of the day. And so I think as the day goes gradually on, we get more and more frustrated. We make some sort of adjustment, but yet there's still a limit as to how far we can go. So all that to say, I don't necessarily think the day is going to feel super great, but we know that there is some opportunity for healing should we want to take it. Moving forward into February 5th. February 5th is Thursday. Thursday is Jupiter's day. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, retrograde. I think we are just a few weeks from its direct motion. Jupiter days are for the expansion of broader thought, engaging with maybe spirituality, religion, other cultures. This is a time to let the brain relax, right? And maybe ponder some of the more philosophical things, if you want to use Jupiter in a good way, right? Early in the morning, we're going to get the moon going into Libra. A moon in Libra needs to connect. It needs to socialize. It needs to take all sides into consideration. it really wants to like go and be with people. And needs to engage in things that they think are beautiful. So, with it being Jupiter's day, and we also have the moon in Libra, I think if you have the time to engage in pleasurable activities where you can, that would be a nice way to use the energy. We will have a moon op Neptune very early in the morning, spiritual, overwhelmed, possibly feeling, emotionally overwhelmed. It's so early. I wouldn't be too freaked out about it. The big player of the day is Mercury square Uranus. So, as I said earlier in the podcast, Mercury is squaring Uranus at the degree of the eclipse that is happening on the 17th. So we need to really pay attention to what information Mercury is coming out. With the Mercury-Uranus square, there could be like new innovations coming up. There could be issues with information is changing, right? Mercury, information. Uranus, the great change bringer. This could be shocking pieces of information. This could be also things about currency, cryptocurrency. I think with the Venus square that's going to happen too. I think that also has to do with it. But because it's pinging this eclipse degree and we're in eclipse season, I think this is sort of like fated. This could be an unearthing around information that we need to be aware of and maybe take action on. We have to remember that squares have the nature of Mars. They get you kind of fired up. It is a fixed square, which is a little bit rougher and being forced to take some sort of action, perhaps. I definitely think we have a lot of brain activity. That's what it also feels like to me. I love Mercury and Uranus. It's really innovative thinker. It's really thinking out of the box. And maybe this is the information that it's like so far out of the box that it's frankly shocking to us. Cranky aspects with the moon sesqui square the sun also. And we're also going to continue to feel a bit, I think, nervous, and wanting to get deeper into things. We're going to have the moon trine Pluto. Sun quincunx Jupiter is going to happen right before that, in the morning, 8:08, 8:44 is when this is going to be happening. And so there's like an anxiety and also this like need to get deeper, to find the bottom of whatever information is coming up, whatever secrets are happening. We could also just be feeling really, really deeply. It is a air trine. So this has to do with information. It has to do with thinking. It has to do with conversation. It's less gut and it's more head, this trine. Relationships could be feeling really cranky, not quite right. We have the moon sesqui square Venus. We have this great aspect for getting things done. It's not happening until the end of the day, and it's the last aspect of the day. We have moon trine Mars. And moon trine Mars says, let's go do it. So I also think that it might be a little bit harder to go to sleep at night because of this trine, because of this like, yeah, let's go, let's do it, let's, make it happen thing. If you are a person who wants to take your energy out, this is a good aspect for, getting it on. So maybe use that for your benefit. And if you are a person that works out in the middle of the night, what a delightful trine to work with. February 6th. All right. So February 6th, the biggest deal of the day is we have Mercury going into Pisces. We do not have a lot of major aspects, Ptolemaic aspects between the moon and other planets. I do think that with the sesqui squares from the moon to Uranus and Mercury, it feels like electricity in the air. I think it's going to frustratingly wake up that square between Mercury and Uranus because it's still pretty active on this day. It's not separated. Mercury is anaretic. We need to remember that as well. So Mercury has some information, some different eccentric, innovative information that it wants to push out there and maybe shock us with before it goes into Pisces. Other aspects that we have for the day: be careful of overindulgence, maybe eating too much, smoking too much, doing too much. With the moon square Jupiter, the square to Jupiter from the moon isn't necessarily a bad thing because it's with a benefic, right? Jupiter is a benefic. However, it usually says however we are reacting is a bit too much. So we are going to want to be aware of that. We get a nice flowing trine at 11:49 a.m. This is a nice working energy. We are feeling more or less in alignment at this time. 2:48 is when we get Mercury into Pisces. So when Mercury goes into Pisces, Mercury is now in its fall and also its detriment. This is in terms of the dignity of planets. This is not a good place for Mercury to be. Now it needs to find ways to belong. It needs to find ways to articulate itself. And in Pisces, Mercury is in a ocean of ideas. When Mercury goes into Pisces, the thoughts and how we are not only articulating ourselves, but how we're thinking turns to visions and broad paint strokes and ephemeral ideas instead of things that feel more concrete or succinct. We are now in the poet's territory, right? So we also are now where Mercury is going to be when we have Mercury retrograde. So keeping that in the back of our bonnets as well. The last aspect of the day makes us real sensitive. 9:49 p.m. we get the opposition from the moon to Chiron. This is ouch. This is feeling disrespected. This is feeling maybe unheard, not seen. A moon in Libra tends to pay attention or need the other person. And maybe with that opposition, it's like, I'm actually not getting what I need here too. There is an imbalance and a sensitivity here. So just be careful of hurts coming up at this time. Saturday, February 7th is Saturn's day. I like to always tell people Saturn days are always a good day for doing the things that help you hold the structure of your life together. Okay? So whatever that is, chores, laundry, paying your bills, taking care of business, take care of business, right? Be responsible on this day. And I know it's like a weekend. You're like, what are you telling me? But take care of those things so that you can rest and so you can play and so you can be creative on a Sunday, right? Hopefully you don't have to work on a Sunday, but, I know that we live in the horrible political and socio-economical landscape that we do right now, and it's a bit rough. So we get the moon in its last moments in Libra. We're going to get a trine to Venus, which is really pleasant, social, but it's so early. It's so early that in some ways, I don't know if that really matters. The meat of the day, we're going to get the quincunxes from the moon to Uranus. This is feeling off, right? This is feeling uncertain, I think. I think this is feeling shocked and needing to make sudden adjustments around how we are relating to others, maybe. We're going to get a quincunx to Saturn, 9:53 a.m. This also feels a bit frustrating. It feels maybe like what we have on our plate is rough, right? It is having to take account of what we need to do and knowing that we can't get it all done. We need to shift. We need to shift in some sort of way around how we're relating to others as it pertains to maybe the structures and the social norms that we have up. So In the morning, there could be some issues coming up. We are going to have the moon going into Scorpio. That is definitely a vibe shift. I feel like it's a vibe shift whenever the moon goes into Scorpio at 11:13 a.m. And when the moon goes into Scorpio, she's now in the sign of her fall. So, a moon in Scorpio is retentive, holds on to things, can be feeling very almost paranoid, attacked, very, very protective. Sometimes I like to, all the Scorpio moons I know have a little bit of an emotional vengeful streak if they are not feeling safe or comfortable or seen. It's one of the shadow parts of a moon in Scorpio. So a moon in Scorpio needs to learn how to let go and to transform its deep, 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 passionate well of feelings into something that is more helpful and useful. Certainly. And that's one of the moon in Scorpio's initiatives in this life. We are going to have moon quincunx Neptune, which I think will bring some confusion. And maybe because it's engirdled, the moon in Scorpio and Neptune in Aries are engirdled. That means they're ruled by the same planet, which is this Mars in Aquarius. And Mars in Aquarius is definitely, I think, has this flavor of totalitarianism. It feels like might makes right. And now we're having to make some sort of emotional shift and release, I think, some sort of release around what we're feeling, because it's not congruent to this new vision that's being started that has to do with the future, right? Communication struggles, things having to do with right brain, left brain thinking, things that have to do with agreements and natural law or empire. I think that we need to be a bit careful about how we are communicating around 1:30 to 2, let's even call it 1 to 2 p.m., because we have the opportunity to really overreach and to say too much. Then we get some, let's call them working aspects, but not necessarily in the best way. I think it's just, it's happening. 2:39, we're going to have the moon trine Mercury. What we're feeling and what we're speaking are in alignment. We are able to communicate in, I think, this emotional way about deeper topics, right? How we're feeling on a deeper level. This is a really passionate trine. This is an intuitive trine. This is an emotional trine. So I do like this as the opportunity to have a conversation that is touching on a deeper level than maybe potentially we've had in weeks prior, especially with Mercury going into Pisces, literally the ocean. Moon square Pluto, this can feel emotionally upset. There's power control dynamics that we're emotionally having to confront. This is some sort of confrontation, emotional confrontation with deeper things. Go deep, right? I think Pluto wants us to go deep. Moon in Scorpio needs to release. This fixed square is release. This is strong feelings. It's the last aspect of the day. And so I think on this day, if we can be really intentional about how we're communicating to each other, I think we have a really cool opportunity to get to the bottom of things, but also we're going to feel a lot. That moon in Scorpio just feels a lot, really intensely. Okay, February 8th is Sunday. Sunday is the sun's day. We have the sun in Aquarius. And, there's still so much Aquarian energy in the sky. So much. Those different babies. I love Aquariuses. I just think that they just rock different, you know? I appreciate them in my world. Anyways, today, the biggest aspect of the day is going to happen very early in the morning, but it's going to hold all day, and it has been holding for the days before. We have the Venus square Uranus at 27 degrees 28, which is pretty much on the eclipse degree, which is 28 Aquarius. So whatever's coming up here has to do with financial, has to do with women, has to do with certainly information. To me, this square feels like financial structures that have to do with cryptocurrency specifically that, or like banking, the ways that money is digitally moved around the earth. I think something comes up. This can also destabilization in relationships, right? And maybe even friend circles, something coming up and you going, oh, actually, it's not supposed to be like that. There is, in modern astrology, a mutual reception here where Venus in Aquarius is ruled by that Uranus in Taurus. Uranus in Taurus is ruled by that Venus in Aquarius. Let's hope that it works in a way where this square, this conflict, is really for our good, right? It really is to work something out. It really brings up it is a crisis square. So this awareness of like, oh, okay, now I'm very aware of what's going on. I'm very aware of what's going on with Venusian things, money, relationships, definitely how we're communicating inside of our social circles, could be coming up. I'm aware of it. Now it needs to change. Something needs to change, or something has been changed, suddenly changed because of that Uranus aspect to it. We're going to get Moon Square Mars. That's spicy. It's angry. That's, in the afternoon. We're going to get some frustrating aspects from the moon to Saturn and Neptune, feeling frustrated, feeling blocked, feeling a bit confused, feeling maybe defeated as well. And so, I'm really aware of what's going on in the news right now. And I think that this little period of time, especially, this is spicy astrology on this day, on the 8th, truly. And I want to offer the guidance, I guess, of whatever we're feeling now in terms of what we can do, what we can get done, and the enormity of what is going on in the world. We can and will get through it. Hopefully, we will put aside our feelings of defeat and instead focus on what we can get done, even if it is incremental, right? Even if it is having important conversations that we need to have with certain people in our communities. And even if that means that parts of our communities have to shift and change. We just need to do the work. We do have one nice aspect of the day, and that's the moon trine Jupiter at 8:10 p.m. If you can take the opportunity to relax, try to feel into things, maybe engage into some spiritual pursuits, engage in deeper feeling. There's like allow the feelings to come so they can release. The flow of energy with that moon trine Jupiter just says like, I am feeling it all, right? And maybe carrying forth the conversations that I had earlier with that moon trine Mercury yesterday into something different. We can release here. There's an ease and release that we can engage with. Let's put it that way. Okay, February 9th is Monday. Monday is the moon's day. We are going to get the moon entering Sagittarius, but not until the evening. So this whole day we have the moon in Scorpio. She feels really passionately, she feels really deeply, and she's also out of bounds. So, this is an over the top feeling. And certainly after that trine with Jupiter, I think that the trine with Jupiter that happened yesterday, that the feelings are continuing to flow. We're going to get a third quarter square on this day with the moon and the sun. So, the moon is waning. She's closing down. We are getting closer to the eclipse, right? As the moon goes forward over the next few days, it's going to meet up with the sun and it's in the eclipse. But the moon and the sun being in this square, it feels like a crisis. This is an emotional crisis of the deepest variety because we have the moon in Scorpio and she is out of bounds. Sensitivity also is in the skies with the moon quincunx Chiron. That's going to do that at 9:44 a.m. Moon opposite Uranus. Sudden shock and awareness of things, right? Maybe awareness of information, sudden emotional destabilization. And I feel it's as if I have these things that I am holding secure. And now I am emotionally confronted and made very aware that I cannot take this part with me, right? This is an opposition in fixed signs that specifically have to do with security, specifically have to do with money. It has to do with food. It has to do with the things that nourish us, right? So whatever comes up at this time, be willing to release and let go. We have the moon trine Saturn. That's going to happen at 10:32 p.m. So we could be feeling a little bit more a little bit more resolute, hopefully a little more emotionally grounded. This feels quiet. It feels like a monk. It feels like sitting at your altars to regulate your emotions. That's what it feels like to me. 11 p.m. we're going to get the moon square Venus. Relationships could be feeling not really great. We could be indulging in things, overindulging in pleasure. Really try to use that trine to Saturn to regulate ourselves here on this day. And then last aspect of the day, we have the moon going to Sag. It goes, I felt so much with the moon in Scorpio. Now I gotta go. So hopefully there's a vibe shift. It's in the middle of the night essentially. And so we are going to be waking up with the moon in Sag, hopefully feeling like we can take off. We can go in these various directions. We can be more adventurous. We can be more philosophical. And hopefully we can leave behind all of those really intense feelings we had when the moon was in Scorpio so that we can go forward in a better way. February 10th is Tuesday. Tuesday is Mars's day. Mars is about to be on a world point at 15 fixed, right? Yeah. Sorry, I had to look. Mars is going to be on a world point, so we can expect when a planet is on a world point, things will happen that pertain to that planet that impact us all or we are all made aware of in the world, right? In the universe, we don't know. So there could be something about war. There could be something about conflict, strife, aggression, violence, some sort of action being taken that is quite explosive. The nice thing about when Mars is on a world point, it is also quincunxing Jupiter, so that gives it and I think there's like a suddenness, so that's interesting. Mars days are good for taking action, right? Mars days are good for getting things done. We wake up from a trine to Neptune from the moon, which is very visionary, it's passionate, it's in fire signs. This is like, let me go on an adventure and seek the wild unknown kind of feeling. So, dreams could be pretty cool at this time. Moon sesqui-square Jupiter. Try not to overreact to things, go over the top. The moon is still very out of bounds. There can be a bombasticness about, I think, a moon in Sagittarius, especially when it's out of bounds, where it's just like, I need to go and I don't care about whether you give a shit about this. Like, there is a self-righteousness that can come. So just all be a bit cautious about how we're emotionally reacting to things, and you just take off, right? Like, let's not. Biggest player of the day, though, is Venus goes into Pisces. 2:18 a.m. We like when Venus is in Pisces. Unfortunately, she doesn't have really a lot of help right now, because there's a lot of crazy things happening in the sky that, maybe, just maybe, Venus and Pisces will make more calm, bring some sweetness back, help us engage in things that are a little bit more pleasurable. There's something about care and consideration here, and we have now this Pisces flavor in the sky, right? Compassion, this spirituality, this artistic pursuits, poetry, the ocean, right? Venus now is in the ocean. It's like all-encompassing love. So maybe we ask ourselves also on this day, with Venus going into Pisces, how can I be more compassionate and loving to everyone? How can I engage in that sort of care? Moon sextile Pluto, this I think is just going to amplify the moons wanting to go off into new territories, but also wanting to go deep, or it has the ability to go deep. Maybe this can mean that we have the emotional capability of going a bit deeper than a moon in Sag would want to go, right? Not that a moon in Sag isn't deep. Maybe it has the potential here to get to the depths of its philosophical ideals in this moment. Arguments can occur. 1:01 p.m. we have the moon square Mercury. Be cautious. 4:09 p.m. moon sesqui-square Chiron. Sensitive. Oh man, sensitive. And I think really fired up about the things that have really harmed you and really done you wrong. And wanting to do something about it, but really frustrated that you don't know exactly what it is. Maybe feeling like there's too many options to your path to healing. So just chill and try not to take out that spiciness on other people. The afternoon is spicy, and really that energy is going to hold for the rest of the day. So allow the moon sextile Pluto to allow you to go deep. Try not to be overly argumentative and emotionally explosive about the things that have hurt you. Instead, try to do the Venus and Pisces thing, to sit in the ocean of love and compassion and acceptance, and maybe do some self-care and some self-love for that day. All right. So that's the week. I think that this week, especially with the bigger aspects and the things that are playing in the background, especially with the contra indicia of Pluto and Uranus, and that Mercury and also Venus squares to Uranus, we have a lot of information coming up. We have a lot of things that it's almost like being thrown on our lap and saying here, you deal with it. You deal with it. Do something, right? And so as we get closer and closer into the eclipse, and also with, Saturn being in its last degrees, there are things that are coming up that we have to almost be forcibly be made aware of, so that when we go into this new world, this new territory, we have more information and data. We have more scope to know how we want to go forward. What do we want the new vision to be? And I want us individually and collectively to say, okay, here's this world that is overwhelmingly violent, and things are coming up from the abyss that are so deeply unsettling and disturbing, but now they are in the light. With this information, how do I envision what I would like this world to be? Have that conversation with people. For me, I want a world where billionaires don't exist. And I want a world where people have what they need to live, to thrive, and to create, right? I want a world where I don't have to think about getting some sort of corporate job, and instead I can just see astrology clients and make art and pet my dogs. I know for some people, they don't dream of labor in their vision, and that's totally fine. But I bet you, if you did not have to labor, you would still create. So, all right. With that, take good care of yourselves, of your hearts. Do not pull the wool over your eyes, but also try not to let it shift your heart into darkness. Okay, bye. Hey, thank you for listening to today's Astro Weather with me. I'm Sydney. As a reminder, I'm always open to seeing both new and my beloved returning clients. My website is ddastrology.com. That is D as in dog, astrology.com to check me out, and just click the email buttons in order to schedule with me. If you're into a more conversational feel with your podcast and content, I have a podcast called BS Astrology with my fellow Mercurial Mommy Bender, and we put out episodes every Sunday for the week. Just search BS Astrology on YouTube or wherever you enjoy listening to your podcast, including Spotify, Audible, and more. Have a good day.